Bike racing time, let's dive straight into it. Hello, my name is Daniel. This is the TriathlonDan YouTube channel. Please do hit subscribe down below if you haven't already. Done it? Thanks very much. You join me at Darley Moor Sports Centre. This is a criterium race. It's a UK-based criterium. Now, I've trimmed this video down a lot because you're busy, I'm busy, I get it. There's only so many times you can watch me ride around a circuit, isn't there? So I've trimmed it down, tried to pick out the key points, some bits that I can talk about, some interesting and exciting parts, as well as the result. I am genuinely buzzing to record this video because I got a decent result at this race, and it was my first proper bunch sprint finish as well. So let's get stuck into it. So I'm 5 minutes in. What we've done, 200 miles. It's not been that hard, to be honest. So this is a category 4 only race. Now, if you're joining this journey midway through, I'm desperately trying to get my third category race license, which once you get a third cat, you never drop below it, and it gives you more options for entering races. So I wanted to take that off. I needed to finish 6th or higher in order to do that today. So that's what I was trying to do. Weather and wind wise, so on the top right hand side of the screen, there is the arrow which directs is the wind direction. That little checkered flag is of course the checkered flag. And the circuit direction is the circuit layout. There's a little two little chicanes. The one on the start finish straight is tighter than the one that was on the straight we've just come down now. The corners are slowish, but not that slow. So you see there, we dropped down to about 20 miles an hour, but that is about it. I don't have any teammates in this race, it is just me. The riders you can see in front of me now are from Cobble on the left hand side. They're a great team based in Lincolnshire, really friendly guys, but unfortunately there are 4 of them in this race and only me from South Normanton, and they start doing team tactics. Now, it's all well and good me making a great, talking about team tactics and how good they are, until you're on the receiving end of it. Now, this isn't salty at all because we do exactly the same thing, but they basically take it in turns of attacking, stringing it out, making it hard for everybody else because they've got the numbers, and absolutely fair play to them. We have done and will continue to do exactly the same thing, so absolutely fair play to them. A lot of those guys, they're new to racing, so it's good to see them do this sort of thing. Right, the race is 45 minutes long, so it's not a huge amount of time. Means it's been pretty intense, but it's been pretty off and on up to yet so far. There's not been a breakaway that's stuck. We're just about to cut to a different part of the race. I don't know where we're cutting up to. I'm just slipping up the outside here, just moving up. So there's a Vela Bavarian rider there as well. There's 2 of those riders. So here we go. There's a bit of an attack going up the left-hand side. There's a Cobble rider gone, 2 Cobble riders gone with them. I need to go with that. If there's 2 riders from the same team going up the road, they are not going to chase it, especially with a Vela Bavarian rider got on the road as well. However, it sort of just comes back together, and this is a bit of the story of this race. I think with Cat 4 racing, it's the entry level racing. There's still some strong riders in, but you don't necessarily get the super strong, big attacks that you might do in other levels of racing. So generally in the races I've been in, it's always ended up as a bit of a war of attrition. You end up, the group whittles down, rather than a breakaway establishing and working away. It seems to be that people just get dropped as it gets harder and harder and longer. Giggity. So I've got that in my mind. Now, on this day, I did the club chain gang the night before. I didn't go that hard, but I underestimated how much that would fatigue me. I wasn't feeling very good in this race, so I was trying to just mitigate how bad I felt. I didn't feel terrible, but I felt like I didn't really have that zap, I didn't really have that kick. So I don't really do many big attacks. I think I'd resign myself to the fact that my best opportunity was following an attack or waiting for the bunch sprint to try and be in the top 10. In the first few minutes, you're trying to suss out who are the strong riders, who are the teams you need to look out for. Unfortunately, normally those who are real strong and really savvy, you don't see them for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, so you don't always find out everything you want to know. So looking at the wind direction now, there's sort of a cross tail on this section and a cross tail on the start finish straight, and then the top right hand side section is pretty much a block headwind. So you didn't really want to be on the front for that block headwind, so I'm trying to move up now because there are often attacks on the corners, but I didn't want to be on the front when we hit that headwind because it's just a waste of energy. Now, I did do a few laps on the front on that section, but I just made sure that I moderated my effort, that I wasn't working really hard into the wind unnecessarily. You also do want to keep the pace a bit higher, because if you don't, you're just sort of inciting attack. So I'm pressing on here. It's around threshold. It's not that hard. See, my heart rate is about 150. My max is about 175. So I'm feeling okay intensity wise, but I know that whatever I'm doing, those people behind me are doing less. I'm just having a drink, and Liz has told me off for slurping on these videos, so How's that? It's dry at the minute. It starts raining in a few minutes, which adds a bit of excitement to the mix. I am rubbish at cornering. People keep taking him up the inside, absolutely fine. Bit of a surge out the corner from that cobble rider. You never really know if they're going to fully commit to an attack or not. So I'm trying to gauge now, you know, how hard do I need to go? I can't keep sprinting out of every corner, following the first wheel that comes out the corner. I need to, at some point, just let a few wheels go and just drop in the line. And that seems to be what's happened here. So I'm happy with that. I didn't burn any matches there trying to chase that front rider. It did just come back together. And then it is pretty easy into this headwind, providing that I sit in the wheels. Where are we now? Top corner, coming into the headwind. Now, on another day, I did attack here a couple of times. I think there's an attack that goes off here. Or is there not? Why did I put this section of clip in? Maybe I attack. Do I attack here? Put a bit of a surge in there just to get position. Who knows? Going into a headwind, here we go. Yeah, so one of the cobble riders here just puts a bit of a surge in. The Vela Bavarian rider follows him through, and then the other cobble rider follows him through. So it's not like a full-on attack, but I'm going pretty hard here, having to surge on. I don't want to drop loads of wheels because I know that when we turn into that tailwind section on the bottom corner, it's a lot harder to stay on the wheels because the drafting benefit isn't as much. And I'm sort of trying to practice, if this is going to be a bunch sprint, how am I going to play this final lap? How am I going to get to the final corner near the front? And how am I going to then cross the line first? Because that is always the intention, that we win bike races. I haven't won one yet, but hopefully at some point in the future we will do. So I'm looking around me, I'm looking in front and looking behind. I know the bunch is bunched up behind me, but it is strung out of the front, so it's not, they're not going easy on the front. They are pressing on quite a bit, and that is affecting the, you know, the few riders behind them. I'm far enough back where it's not really affecting me. You can see from my power, I'm spiking up to 300-ish every now and again. In fact, this is quite hard, this bit, but previously I wasn't. There's a lot of surging into this bottom corner to get position, and I was doing it quite a lot as well, just so that I didn't get like losing positions in the corner, as I have done now. So now I have to put a big dig in to get onto the back of that group. But I'm looking at the road, I can see they're spread out, so I know that they're not stringing it out, not pushing on. Now just let the bunch up behind them, and then now one of these riders is putting an attack in. So he's putting a bit of a dig in. He's got two teammates on the front. I don't think they're going to chase. I'm not quite sure what's happening. I'm trying to keep an eye on what's happening, but I can't quite see. I don't really feel like I've got the legs to do anything major. I know I'm doing 400 watts, so that rider's going to have to be doing big power to be making a gap. And I'm trying to trust in the riders that are in front of me. There's a couple of riders there, two VB riders, one rider who I don't know what team is straight in front of me. I'm hoping they're going to chase him down, which they have done, and I haven't had to do any major work there. He's just come back to the group of his own accord. Fine. So here, where are we now? We're into the headwind section. I'm just on the back of this fellow Bavarian rider. That on the screen is not spit, it is rain, so it has started spitting. We were just conscious that as we were going through the race, I had let my tyres down a little bit before the race because I thought it was going to get wet, and it does help with cornering. Now people are looking behind them, I'm looking around me. It's almost like this is easy. There's going to be an attack at some point. You have to like brace yourself for somebody attacking. And I'm feeling okay at this point. I'm conscious that we're nearly halfway through, so if there's going to be something that attacks and stays away, this could be the time. So I'm just pressing on a little bit to stay near the front. I'm not working hard, but I just want to position myself well. I'm sort of sensing that people are coming around me. You see my hands on the tops there. I'm just trying to get as aero as I can, just so I can put out as least energy that I can. Let this rider just roll past, and I'm still doing a decent amount of power there, so I'm not just, you know, it's not easy. Coming around this corner, if you take a wide line, you can pedal around this corner, which is quite good for keeping momentum up. And then there, I think he's putting a bit of a dig in. Yes, he is. I'm having to put out pretty big power. So about 800 watts is my sprint. So that's all I've really got in the locker. Now, I wasn't sure what was going to happen here. Of course, it's all right saying there's a team in, but I don't know what the tactics are. That rider number 4, I was worried that he was going to let that other rider just go off in the distance, or he comes around him now and they start working together. If I'm not on that wheel, they're going to work together and commit. If they're in the same team, they're going to work together definitely. So just close that gap there. I don't want to get left behind and have two riders on the same team in a breakaway working together, and their teammates in the bunch obviously then aren't going to bring them back. So I needed to just like close that down a little bit there. Nice socks as well, Cobble. Bit of sock envy from South Norton there. So when we're swimming around here, we've got a bit of a cross tailwind, so it doesn't matter so much about positioning. Of course, there is still a little bit of a drafting benefit, but it's not huge at all. You see, I'm knocking the power off, and we're still doing sort of 23, 24 miles an hour, so it's not bad at all. Feeling a bit tense. I'm just trying to push up, just try and keep my position near the front. I'm expecting now that 25 minutes in, there's going to be some more attacks. Those people that are feeling good. I'm not in that category at the minute. I think I felt okay in the middle. What I have learned from this is I'm going to start taking drinks with me on these crit races. I did a race the day after this, and so this guy comes around me pretty hard. I did a race the day after this. It was a bit longer, and I had a drink on it, and I felt loads better. It was full steam carb mix, so maybe it's because it had carbs in it, but definitely having a drink did help. Right, where we've got to now, this is the same section we were on a minute ago. So you see there's an attack coming up the left. I'm pretty much of the mind that if an attack goes and it looks like that person's strong, I need to follow them. So there we go. So 1, 2, I put a big dig in and I'm not feeling great, and I'm flicking my elbow for somebody to come around me because I know I can't close that gap. Like I was feeling it a little bit. This fellow Bavarian rider comes past me. Again, I'm not entirely sure what their team strategy is because they've got a rider potentially in that breakaway, but he just comes around and just works towards closing that gap. I don't think those two that were sliding at the road were really working that hard, so I don't think he's like ruined their breakaway. But yeah, it was just like I didn't really know what was happening. But if the gap's coming down, I don't care how it's being done. Like the gap's coming down and I'm not having to do it, so that's fine by me. It's just getting wetter and wetter, so we're just cornering a little bit slower. This actually makes attacks easy to do from corners because the bunch is going slower. You can put a big attack in that corner, and it's harder for people to get on your wheel because you're starting from a slower speed. I've got a bit of a gap open up there, aren't I? Just losing a few wheels. Not the end of the world. So we've cut now to about half an hour point. This is the start finish. So let's familiarise ourselves with where the start finish is because this is important. That's of course the only place where it matters what position you are. Cobble again, very present on or near the front the whole race. So they are in the mix at all times. Really good presence by them. So we've got a little chicane there, and they'll come out this left-hand chicane, and then it's probably 50 metres, maybe 80 metres until the line. So the line is here. So we've got that in a few laps to go through at a bit more pace. These are pressing on. These are working relatively hard. I don't think that the group's going to split because they're working hard, but I don't know. And here again, I've just rumbled on the grass there, lost a bit of momentum. It doesn't look like you're cornering that fast, but we are cornering pretty fast. Again, I'm struggling to I don't want to get boxed in there, so I have to signal and come out and follow this rider through. Here, I'm just thinking sometimes when people attack and they get out of the saddle and sprint, everybody reacts. Sometimes if it just stretches out and people are just pressing on, gaps appear and then breakaways happen almost by accident. If we think back to Alex Dowsett at the Giro, was it last year when he won his stage, his teammate put an attack in and got brought back, and then Alex sort of stayed seated and pressed on and got away. And I think sometimes that happens with this. What you also get is people shout attack. When somebody sprints up the left-hand side of the bunch, for example, people will shout attack left or attack up, something like that, and it always gets people a bit energised and makes them want to attack. Right, 32 minutes in, again, another attack from a cobble rider. I think they're just following that sort of pressing on the left-hand side. It is a bit of a block headwind, so I'm trying to come across the road and get into that draft as soon as I can. Of course, I can't just swing across people, and they're following the wheels in front of them, so I have to wait for a gap. And I'm still getting a bit of a draft through getting across and getting on the same side as the road as them. But yeah, that was important to get across the road there. If I'd have sat on the right-hand side, I could have found myself at the back of the bunch, and that would have been a difficult place to be to get back there. So it's just been pretty hard here, and I'm thinking, is this a time for me to attack? We're just coming into 2 tailwind sections. Everybody's just been working really hard, or relatively hard. Could this be a time for an attack? So I press on a bit here, thinking I'm going to get to the front. I can see there's a couple of people moving at pace. I'm going to press on here and just see what happens. Don't think I felt it good enough to actually put in a big dig there, but I've just moved up back to the front without having to put a massive effort in. Again, this chicane, just remember the chicane is quite tight, right, left, right. Wide enough for a couple of riders wide, but it does definitely knock some speed off, and when you're moving, you're leaning the bike over, you do have to sort of freewheel for a second or two just to get over that tight bit. Bit of a gap open up here, and I think this was the point I was feeling it, and I shouted something like they're going away. It might have been a different break, I think it was this one. Basically, I wanted somebody else to close the gap, I think. No, it must have been a different one. No, I'm not redoing that section. It happens a little bit later on. I think somebody comes past me, 2 riders, and there's a gap, and I shout basically saying that I'm not closing it. Some of that is almost playing the card saying I'm not feeling very good when you might secretly be feeling okay, but I genuinely wasn't feeling very good on this day. So again, this same rider then puts a bit of an attack in. I have to put a big dig in there because I'm keen to get away with somebody. I want to get in a working break. To me, that is the only way I'm going to win a bike race. From a reduced working break, we get a good gap. There's hopefully 5 or 6 of us. We, you know, make it hard, whittle it down. That's my strategy. That's what I believe is my strength. However, if I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure what my strength is anymore, because I did okay in this bunch sprint that comes a bit later, not numbers wise. So again, another attack from a cobble rider there. Great work. So again, he's not being closed down by one of his teammates. Nobody else is coming around me just yet. These riders are just easing around. Fair play to that VB guy for closing that gap there. That's a big effort. And then again, his teammate there. So I know they're closing it. I just need to get onto their wheel. I don't need to worry about that. I'm happy that they're going to close that gap down. And we're now going into the headwind section, so I need to worry about it even less. I'm still losing a bit of distance on that corner, aren't I? I've only ridden around it about 50 times. Come on, DW, some work to do. Again, I know I've just got to press out this lap, and then I'm on the wheel, and I know there's not really any danger of me getting dropped. Right, so we've got from here about 6 minutes before the finish. Now I'm thinking a lot of things here. I'm thinking, how do I feel? Do I feel like I can break away? No. Do I feel like I can have a bunch sprint? Yes. So I'm starting to think about positioning. How can I position myself to be near the front so that I can finish 6th or higher? Of course I want to win, but 6th or higher will do for the result that I want. And this sort of thing starts many laps out. You've got to position yourself, I would say, from at least, I mean, it depends how long the lap is, but for this lap that's about 3 minutes, I would say at least 3 or 4 laps out, because when you start getting close, everybody starts thinking about the same thing. And if you are already in the first 5 to 10 riders, you haven't got to move up, you've just got to fight to maintain position, and that is easier to do than to move up in most cases. So I'm happy where I am here. I'm pretty convinced this is going to be a bunch sprint. I don't think there are really many other attacks on this point. I don't believe. We'll see. I think there might be. I don't really know. So again, I'm just following that rider through, but again, not pulling through to the front. I'm not going to put a big attack in. I'm just showing that I'm there, showing that I'm feeling okay, and just being present on or near the front. The rain's getting worse. Of course, I've got in my mind that I don't particularly want to, I don't want to crash, so I don't want to push it too hard in the rain. I'm not really too worried about a bunch sprint in the rain, because you're going in a straight line mostly, but just, thinking about the corners. But if anything, if I try and break away here, I'm going to have to be going around the corners faster than I am in the bunch. So I'm not too motivated to get away at this point. I've also seen all too many times people getting away, or trying to get away with a lap or 2 to go, being brought back and finishing nowhere. I don't really want to risk finishing nowhere, because, as I say, I want to get those points. I know you should be always looking for the big result, but I did just want to tick that box for those points. On other days when I've got teammates in a race, I more often than not feel like I've got a job to do for somebody, so therefore I'm less likely to get results. So on a day when I've got no teammates, it makes more sense for me to try and get a result for myself, even if that isn't a win, just to sort of follow my own ambitions for once. I love working for the people, and I love getting team results, but I do still have that desire to get individual results, and I think that's something we're going to talk about in the future on a separate video. It's getting pretty hard now. That cobble rider's putting a bit of an attack in here. This is like the cross tailwind, so we're moving pretty well. We're doing about 26 miles an hour. That Vela Bavarian rider's just following through. Now, I could have got straight on that cobble guy's wheel, but I sort of thought, well, I don't feel amazing for 1, and for 2, I don't think he's going to get away on his own. So if that VB rider just follows him through, it's a bit less of an effort for me to just stay on his wheel than it is to come out of the draft, chase that guy down. And everything you've got to think about is staying in the right position whilst managing your sort of energy resources. So a bit of a gap opening there, and I kick hard out the corner because I don't want to get swamped and lose my position completely. But I'm not really committing to closing that gap. That cobble rider comes around me and closes that gap. That's great, but I have lost a position there. Again, that rider that's just put an effort in, he's just coming back, so I've got that in my mind. He's just put an effort in. That VB rider's just put an effort in to close him. Could I launch an attack now? I don't think I fancy my chances, if I'm honest. I think we're coming up to, the next time we go across start finish is 1 lap to go. In fact, I know it is. So people are thinking, we're nearly there. I mean, we're noodling here. I'm sat in the wind, I'm doing 160 watts. I think it's ever so slightly downhill, hence why we're doing like 23 miles an hour, but even still, that's not like little power. Just sense that guy coming around to the left of me, point of attacking, perfect attack. If he's got 3 teammates, it's absolutely right to put an attack in about a lap and a half out, because even if he gets brought back, me and these other people will have put effort in to bring them back, and his 3 teammates will have the legs to deliver a sprint finish, so that's absolutely fine. You know, unfortunately for him, that didn't stick at that point, but that is well worthwhile doing, because that guy in front of me and me have all put a little effort in to bring him back there, so that adds up. That's good work. It's hard to not be frustrated by those sorts of things when you're on the receiving end. I think you have to respect it, because, you know, we do the same things on other days, so it's just one of those things. He's still pressing on pretty hard here. I think he knows that into a tail, you know, with a tailwind, it's not so beneficial being behind us. So he's working relatively hard, just keeping the bunch speed fast. And that's another thing I quite like, you know, keeping the bunch moving pretty well. It doesn't bunch up as much. So then when it gets a bit nervous on the last lap, it's a lot less likely for a crash to happen when you're strung out rather than when you're 5 abreast. Right, I'm on the front. I'm pretty sure there's a lap to go. I missed the board, but I'm pretty sure there's 1 lap to go. There's a tailwind, so I'm not too worried about it, but right now I'm thinking, get my heart rate down. I need to recover as much as I can while still maintaining position. So I pressed on here to 300 watts. I think I was just trying to get my speed up before the corner, just to carry a bit more speed through the corner so that I don't get like swamped on the way out of the corner. Again, I'm thinking, right, I'm just going to kick out the corner a little bit, but I don't want to do too much. You're sort of trying to balance keeping pace up, but also maintaining, you know, your energy reserves. At 260 watts, that's pretty easy for me. Even at 300-ish, it's not easy, but I'm not digging into, like, I'm certainly not going to gas myself or get a really high heart rate from it. So I feel like sitting around here, somebody's going to have to put a big dig in to come around me, but I know that I don't want to be on the front of this headwind or turn left, because no matter how slow we're going, I'm still going to be putting out more energy than those behind me. And I don't have the, you know, I can't, if I was like 50% fitter than everybody else in the field, then I'd just do it and still win, but I'm not in that situation, so I can't do. So I'm happy to see this guy come around me. If anything, he gives me a little bit of shelter from the cross tail. But I do put a bit of a surge in because I want to get on his wheel, maintain my position, because this is the last lap. There are 2 more corners before the finish and a couple of chicanes. Every position counts. And when he comes past me, if I surge and get on his wheel, you look strong. Like, people behind you will think, oh, he's just closed that gap pretty well. Like, he must be feeling good. And sometimes it's not about, you know, genuinely feeling good. It's just about looking like you feel good. Put a bit of a surge in that corner, nothing major, but again, just getting that speed up straight away, just so that I can not get swamped by people behind me. Riding next to this Vela Bavarian rider, ideally I'd like to try and drop on his wheel. I think that's what I try and do now. Yes, brilliant. I think there's somebody to the left of me, so I can't fully like get on his wheel. I'm not going to start budging people off people's wheels, but I'm still getting a bit of a draft benefit here. And then as he swings in, I just maintain my line, then I sort of drop into his draft there. So I'm relatively happy with that. I think that's worked out okay. Again, unfortunately, I just drop off of his draft there. You know, with that rider there, they're slightly in front of me. They're on his wheel. You know, I've got to respect that. As much as I'd love to sit in his draft, we can't start bumping elbows and banging heads for, you know, for drafts. I press on a little bit now because I can sense some riders coming, so there's a guy coming down the right of me. I've got to go with that. I've got to respond to that. We are, about 400 metres from the finish. I can't let people go. It's not like somebody else will come around me and I'll get a free ride to bring them back. And also, by there, we've got on his wheel, so he's sat up because he doesn't want to commit all the energy to get to that last lap. I've got momentum here, so I've just kept the intensity going slightly, get into the front, and I turn left into a tailwind. This is it. My plan is hit it, get the speed up, give it everything I've got out of this corner. I already get jumped by somebody there, so I jump on his wheel. There is still a bit of draft, not a huge amount, but I know at this chicane, so now I'm seated again, I know this chicane, it's a bit tight, it's a bit twisty. My plan is, he's flying past me as well, my plan is go through the chicane and then give it everything I've got, but I'm absolutely gassed here. I'm going hard. This has been a hard race. We'll go through the chicane. I come out, my plan is to swing out gradually and kick on, which I am. This is everything I've got. Don't laugh at my sprint. I'm like, oh my God, I could win a bike race here. This guy coming around me on the right hand side behind me. We are like neck and neck, bang, second place, photo finish. I am so chuffed with that. You'll see my sprint wasn't actually that big power numbers. I didn't even break 1,000 watts at all. And the last, 10 seconds were about 600. That's purely positioning, speed, momentum. Cat 3 license acquired, second place, so buzzing. Thank you very much for the support. See you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.